Well, good afternoon. My name is Catherine Bruce, and on behalf of Kate's family, welcome today. So, like I just mentioned, Kate did choose the chapel for today. Her coffin is adorned in some of her favourite flowers, including the peonies. The Order of Service booklet has some incredible memories for you all to take home and treasure as well. We'd also like to welcome family from afar and some friends, particularly from Ireland, who are joining us via webcasting. But a very great welcome to you all in the room today. I believe some of you have come from great distances to be here. Very soon, Kate's cousin, Matthew Greenwood, will introduce the speakers, and there'll be some wonderful tributes and stories. A beautiful photo montage is being put together, and of course with some of Kate's favourite music. Everyone who's been involved is just trying to give her the most beautiful farewell, just one full of love. And directly after the ceremony, just so you all know, we'd like to invite you outside as well after the pallbearing takes place. If you'd like to form a guard of honour in the car park, and the family then will follow the hearse to the crematorium for their own very small private farewell, but they're very much looking forward to seeing you all at the Randwick Golf Club for share some more stories and memories of Kate. So now, just before we move, may we all pause for a moment to bring our love of Kate into this beautiful chapel. I did not know Kate myself, unfortunately, because she sounds like an incredible woman. But through talking with her family, I understand that she was kind, smart, and had a great sense of humour. So let us take this little moment to invite in her love. Thank you, everyone. Well, sometimes people come into our lives, and before we realise, they have made an indelible mark on our hearts and in our minds, just simply by being who they are. They radiate a natural charm, welcoming us with warmth and wisdom, sincerity and generosity, compassion and fun, engaging us with genuine interest. Well, Kate was one of those people, loved by so many and held in the highest regard by everyone who knew her. As we honour and celebrate Kate's life today, there will be moments of laughter, plenty of tears. So everyone, please feel free to connect with your faith and spiritual beliefs. Connect with somebody sitting right next to you. So just let those... There is no philosophy or religion ever taught that could prevent this holy natural reaction of the human heart. So please feel free and reassured that this is a safe place to express all your emotions today. Well, today you have come with the heaviest of hearts, with immense sorrow and grief. There is no softening the sorrow or lessening the loss. It's raw, it's hard, and it's really painful. Despite Kate's lengthy illness, her death is still surreal. It has devastated her family, all of her friends and community. We understand on an intellectual level, when someone we love dies, it is the end of a physical life. And most of the time we can accept it as a normal part of the human journey. But when it becomes so personal, when you lose someone like Kate, this gorgeous, vibrant woman at only 38. It demands your heart to break open in sadness and grief. And death, loss and grief makes us not only feel the fragility of life, but the fragility of everything. At times it may make us sense a futility as well, but it will swing back, allowing us to see the divine beauty in everything too. Grief takes us all the hues and colours. Grief gives us all the hues and colours, from the dark greys and blacks to the vibrant and iridescent. That is grief. That is life, ever-changing and multifaceted, multicoloured. So in the midst of your brokenheartedness, may you reach out to one another and draw on the grace of love. Keep checking in on this beautiful family, not just now, but for months and years ahead, as your continued love and care will help them through this very difficult time. Even just a little text message, or maybe leaving a meal at the door. Use that deep love and admiration that you had for Kate to care for her family and for each other. They say grief is love with nowhere to go. So in time, may you all navigate these emotions to find peace and healing. May you affirm all that was good and true and generous and beautiful in Kate's life. Kate made a special contribution to this world, and if love alone could have kept her here with you, it certainly would have. Let us acknowledge now the trees of the land in Little Bay, the Gadigal people, and we give our respects to the people of this land and waterways. This place carries the history, spirit and memory of community, both past and present. Right here, they have performed age-old ceremonies of storytelling, music, dance, celebrations, and renewals. And now this community, everyone here today, you are now all the custodians of Kate's history. You're all the keepers of her stories and the caretakers of her spirit. You carry the memory and the emotions, the laughter and the love that is the legacy of Kate's life. Kate made a special contribution to this world. And of course, if love alone would have kept her here with us, it certainly would have. So today you gather to respectfully say your own goodbyes and to reflect on what Kate has meant to each of you. She touched many lives during her short time here on earth, and today we acknowledge and celebrate the full, interesting and wonderful life of a good and decent woman who lived her life to the fullest in her own fabulous way. So now let us come to the heart and soul of the ceremony, where we will hear all about Kate's life. So everyone, please make welcome Matthew Greenwood, who will now introduce the speakers. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine, for your opening statements. My name is Matthew Greenwood. I'm Kate's cousin, and it's my honour and privilege to lead today's ceremony for Kate. Given the numbers of people attending today, it's clear that Kate touched many people, and I'd like to welcome you all, Kate's family and friends and colleagues from Australia, and particularly overseas, particularly members of Richie's family from Ireland, as well as those people who are watching on a webcast who can't be here in person. Today we'll hear from Kate's most loved family, her husband Richie. I was doing very well until Catherine's opening statement there. Her mum and dad, Trish and Jim. Her sister Annie, and her uncle Peter. And from her friends, Alice and Dana, and some brief interludes for reflection on Kate's life. My job today, Kate asked me if I would do this, will be to lead you through today's order of service. And I'll introduce each of Kate's family and friends speaking today, hopefully more effectively than I am now. And I'll also introduce each moment of reflection in turn. While much of today is down to Kate, from the choice of this beautiful venue, through to much of the music selection, some of which we've already heard, it's really a day for all of us to share our memories of Kate and celebrate her life. With that, I'll ask Richie, Kate's husband, to provide his reflections about Kate. Thanks, Richie.
I'm not used to public speaking, so bear with me. Katie even suggested that we put subtitles up here so we might be able to understand. She also said that if I cried, she'd start laughing. So let's hope I cried. I'd like to thank you all for coming here today to celebrate the life of this beautiful, funny, warm-hearted person who I was privileged to call my wife, best friend and soulmate. There are people here who travel from Perth, Adelaide, Byron Bay, Canberra. Some of my family, Deirdre, Tara and Brian, came from Ireland and Alice flew in from Brussels. I'd like to thank all the team of doctors and nurses and carers who took care of Kate over the last 3 years. There are far too many to mention, but I'd like to single out a few who went the extra mile. Dr. Sissy Howe, whose care and attention couldn't have been any better. Dr. Helen Hertz and her team were there for Kate night and day when needed. Her carers were sang, but particularly Patricia and Sandy. They went way over and above the duty of carers. Their compassion, gentleness and lovely nature made Kate's days more brighter. It's been a tough week, not just for me and Kate's family, but for all of you as well. Friends have just as strong a connection as family do. We know what you're going through, so our thoughts are with you as well. Where do I start? Kate's smile. Everyone here has been blessed with the sight of Kate's infectious smile and those beautiful big brown eyes. Kate was affectionately known as Jolly for her sense of fun and happy, positive outlook. Every text and Facebook message we received for Kate this week mentioned that beautiful smile. Many messages were from people who hadn't seen Kate since she last walked in the Cock and Bull more than 10 years ago, but they still remembered. That's the impact she had on people. A person comes into your life from time to time that makes you feel happy just to be around them. For a lot of people, that was Kate. It certainly was for me. You're probably going to hear about Kate's life, her childhood and achievements later on from Jim, Trish and Annie. So I'll focus on the time I've known and loved Kate, especially the last 3 years, which brought us so close together that in the end we were nearly the same person. For people to think Kate just died from cancer would be a terrible injustice to the daily battle Kate fought for. It's a sad story, but one that needs to be told so we can all realise how lucky we are to have our health, and without any warning it can be taken from us just as quick. I first met Kate briefly back in 2001 when she worked in the Cock and Bull. She went overseas for a while shortly after, and I went home for a few years. We didn't meet again until I walked into a pub on Christmas Eve 9 years later, and there was that smile again. We got talking, exchanged numbers, and between the jigs and the reels we officially got together in October 2012. Our journey to life together started out brilliantly, and I was a very proud man bringing Kate back to Ireland to meet my family and friends, and most importantly my son Oisin. And what an impact Kate made with everyone. She bonded immediately with Oisin, and the three of us went to Bantry for a few days where their friendship was sealed. Kate was a favourite with my 14 nephews and nieces, after just meeting them once, and took the time to chat to each of them and listen to their little stories. She also got to meet my mother, who sadly passed away before Kate's next trip to Ireland. We bought our apartment in Kensington, and with Kate's vision and brilliant eye for design, turned it into a perfect little love nest where some of our best memories were made. Walks in Centennial Park, games of tennis, socialising, snuggling up on the couch, binge watching the latest shows on Netflix. Life was great until we got back from our second trip from Ireland, when on the 23rd of September 2016, cancer came knocking on the door. Spinal cancer, a most rare and aggressive form of it. But by picking Kate, I don't think cancer truly realised the battle it had taken on. After 8 hours of surgery, Kate had lost use of her left leg. Doctors couldn't tell her if she would walk again or not, but Kate wasn't having a bear of it. And with her positivity and determination that stayed with her until the end, she was back on her feet after 3 weeks. 6 hard weeks of radiation followed, where Kate's steely determination was tested to the limit. 2016 was coming to an end when we got engaged in one of our favourite places, Centennial Park, on Christmas Eve. The next year went fast. Kate was busy planning our wedding. She also completed her Masters and was enjoying her work at Public Service Commission, where she was making a name for herself. 2 months out from the wedding, the bastard cancer returned. 6 more weeks of radiation. What an amazing woman she was to deal with this. Now, I don't have a very smiley face, but on the 28th of December 2017, when my beautiful Kate became my wife, I think my smile was up there with hers. I just couldn't stop smiling all day. We had a lovely, intimate wedding in the secret garden on the grounds of Villa Parma in Hepburn Springs in country Victoria. We had a nice, relaxing honeymoon around Melbourne and Perth. We made one last trip to Ireland to celebrate our marriage for a second time with the Irish contingent, where the party went on until 4 in the morning. We had a great holiday, and Kate never felt better. Once we got back from Ireland, things took a turn. By October, Kate had had her second operation and had now lost use of her legs. Kate spent the next 11 months in 4 different hospitals, and because her condition was so complex, cancer and spinal, she spent a bit of time in most wards of those hospitals. Kate inspired and brightened up the days of every doctor and nurse she met at this time, with her positive outlook and cheerful nature. Nurses would often come into her room and stay for 20 minutes having a chat. They brought her gifts and sometimes brought in food they cooked for her at home to give her a break from the horrible hospital food. One time a surgeon broke down while giving us some bad news, and Kate ended up comforting him. Typical Kate, always thinking of others. As time went on, things got worse, but however bad they got, we learned to embrace them, because we knew in our heart and soul that by next week they would be worse. There wasn't 1 hour of any day that Kate failed to amaze me with her ability to cope with what she was facing. She could always pick out the positive parts of the day, however small they were, but they made us smile. Every Wednesday and Saturday we still had our date nights, when we would order in takeaway, watch a movie or just talk the night away, keeping a bit of normality in our lives. After trying a few chemo trial drugs that didn't work, Kate was told in April she had only a few weeks to live. Kate had different ideas though. She was willing to risk one last operation where the odds were stacked against her so much that the surgeon came into her room the night before asking her if she wanted to cancel it. Kate was risking the use of her hands to buy a bit more time. But Kate's determination, courage and lust for life shone through. Sitting with Kate in that hospital room that night, I knew I was in the company of a very unique person. And as usual, she was more worried about how I was feeling than what she was facing into the next morning. The surgery went okay, but a bad infection and a few more setbacks kept Kate in hospital for another 2 months. During this time, Kate went through the worst 3 weeks of her life. It was a perfect storm of everything that could go wrong, going wrong at the same time. Kate was traumatised from this experience, and after 3 weeks of not being well enough to get out of bed, we finally got her into a wheelchair and got her outside in the fresh air. I was probably a bit traumatised as well from watching Kate go through what she had, but I learned something that day about what happiness really is. We found a quiet spot where the sun beamed down on us. Kate closed her eyes and smiled for the first time in weeks. It was like she got some time out from the nightmare. We were holding hands and we both felt this powerful emotion that was pure happiness. All the other stuff was still going on in the background. Kate was still dying, she was still paralysed, but for those few moments nothing else mattered. It's a feeling I won't forget until the day I die. We finally got Kate home, and despite ending up in emergency 2 more times, we cherished our final months together. Kate got to do her favourite things again, like watching the sunrise, rearranging the whole apartment, watching our favourite show Peepers, and most importantly, no more hospital food. It made such a difference for Kate to be back home in a relaxed atmosphere surrounded by her loved ones. When Kate was feeling well enough, she often got visits from her close friends and relatives, which she always enjoyed. I know she was delighted she got to meet Joanne Simon's new baby girl. Kate got outside occasionally to our local cafe, and she made it in here next door for my citizenship ceremony, where I was privileged to have her by my side. By now, Kate had also lost the use of her hands, but she never lost her fight, never lost her sense of humour, never stopped smiling. She knew time was running out, so she organised presents for her family and friends just to say thanks and goodbye. Family and friends meant so much to Kate. Kate slipped into a coma the day before she died. And the day before she died, I was talking to my son Oisin on the phone when he asked if he could say goodbye. I told him she could probably hear, but wouldn't be able to talk. When Kate heard Oisin's voice, she opened her eyes and flashed a beautiful smile one last time. She said, "Hi Oish, I love you loads. Your bond will never be broken." But even though Kate was superhuman, she was still only human. In the end, Kate's amazing mind, her bubbly personality, and her gentle, caring nature was trapped inside a very broken body, and unfortunately, the only escape was death. 21st of November not only marked Kate's passing, but also when Kate was set free. Kate had so much more to offer the world. She would have made a great mother. She was going to do a PhD, so much wisdom to share. So many more people who would have experienced a feeling of true happiness by having got to know her. There are so many people going to be a lot worse off for not having Kate in their lives anymore. You should be so very proud of yourself that Kate chose to have you in hers. Keep smiling, my beautiful Kate. Love you forever, babe, and miss you forever. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Richie. I feel fortified by your delivery. And I can understand every word, which slightly unusual, but reassuring. So now I'll ask Jim, Kate's dad, to come and share some of his memories of Kate. Jim.
Thanks, Matt. Richie's a very hard act to follow, but I'll do my best. Thank you for attending today. I know many of you were at Kate and Richie's wedding, and today is very clearly a very different occasion to that great event. As Richie's already said, the last 12 months were very difficult for Kate and Richie and for everyone who loved Kate. She spent nearly 11 months in hospital before she was able to finally get home in August. She very much enjoyed going home and spending time with Richie and with the family and with people close to her. She remained optimistic, as Richie has said, about the future after she was able to come home. As the condition worsened, she was resolute in her determination to remain at home. Kate and Richie's apartment took on the appearance of a hospital and a pharmacy to enable her to stay at home. Richie's referred to some of the medical practitioners and nursing staff who very significantly assisted Kate after she was at home. Richie and Annie and Trish and I received training on administering various drugs and medications and injections so that Kate could remain at home, and as a result our practical medical knowledge increased as a result. We received very significant support from the doctors and nurses who managed the community medical teams at St Vincent's and Prince of Wales hospitals, doctors from our family GP practice. It was their support that enabled Kate to remain at home and receive treatment in the final weeks of her life. Richie became known as Dr. Foley because of his proficiency in dealing with and administering Kate's medications. And he was also very good at administering and keeping track of the medications. We all now know a lot more about practical medical issues, and in particular syringe drivers and catheters, than we ever needed to know. Kate would often say that she and Richie were going to design and market a catheter that would be better than anything currently on the market, and they would make a fortune. Importantly, Richie's deep devotion to Kate was unwavering throughout her illness, and particularly so in her final months. They truly were soulmates and were devoted to each other. Trish and Annie and I were also there to provide the support that was needed over the last year of her life. Annie would often fly from Melbourne, spend long weekends with Kate and assist with her care. In the last 7 weeks of Kate's life, Annie took long leave from her job and from her life in Melbourne and relocated to be at home full-time to assist. Richie has touched on this. It's worth noting that Kate was diagnosed in September 2016 with the terrible and very cruel condition that eventually claimed her life. She had an extremely rare cancer, and because of its rarity, there were limited proven treatment options available apart from surgery and radiation treatment. After she was diagnosed, she had 3 major neurosurgeries to attempt to reduce the impact. She also endured 2 extensive periods of radiation therapy and also undertook chemotherapy and targeted drug therapy. All those treatments took a toll. The first radiation treatment was particularly difficult. Unfortunately, ultimately, none of those treatments were successful. Kate was always optimistic about the treatment she undertook, and she and we all hoped that somehow her condition would improve. She pursued all available and known treatments, both in Australia and overseas. We met many doctors and nursing professionals since Kate was diagnosed. We acknowledge and are grateful for the work of many of those medical professionals in their assistance to Kate. As Richie has said, we especially thank our family GP medical practice, and particularly Dr. Sissy Zhao, who provided great support to Kate when she returned home. We also thank and acknowledge the medical and nursing staff at Greenwich Hospital for the support and assistance that they provided to Kate. As I've said, towards the end of Kate's life, Kate and her family received very significant assistance from the medical and nursing staff from the St Vincent's Hospital and the Prince of Wales Hospital. She remained under the care of oncologists right up until the end of her life, and they continued to look for clinical trials that might have assisted Kate. Kate had previously been in Royal North Shore public and private hospitals during her long stay in hospital, and had also spent about a month at Mount Wilga Rehabilitation Hospital. Had Kate survived, I suspect she could have published a book on the various pros and cons of major Sydney hospitals and of various treatment options. Had such a publication come to pass, I think we might have had to look carefully at the defamation laws if that publication had been published. Kate was very fond of a number of her assistant nurse carers, who provided daily care and support to her when she left hospital and returned home. We often found that Sandy, one of her carers, would cook her various Nepalese dishes, which she loved. Some of those involved with Kate's care are with us today, and we thank Kate's carers for their assistance to Kate during her lifetime. Kate also often spoke highly, as Richie has said, of a number of the nurses who cared for her in the hospitals where she spent most of the last year of her life. She developed friendships with a number of those nurses. It's fitting in the circumstances that we hold this commemoration in a chapel dedicated to nurses. Kate loved coming to Little Bay with Richie, and was one of her favourite places in Sydney. As Richie has said, another favourite was Centennial Park, and Kate had a long association with the park, and there are photos in the commemoration booklet of her in the park when she was about 8 months old. She maintained that contact with the park through her life. She and Richie got engaged in the park. On her way here today, she was taken on a final drive around the park. If you visit the park, you will find us commemorative pavers, and Kate and Richie and other family members have engraved pavers that are laid to commemorate certain events. In Kate's case, it was her engagement. As well, on her way here today, she was also taken past our family home and past her apartment. As I've said, Kate had a very difficult final year. Notwithstanding her difficulties, she remained positive. When she had visitors, she always lifted in an effort to try to be as social and engaging as possible. She put in a real effort when dealing with friends and relatives who visited her. She would always thank people for visiting and farewell them by saying, "See you next time." Towards the end, she had very real difficulty because of acute tiredness and illness and being able to maintain that approach. After she returned home from that lengthy time in hospital, we were able to take her out occasionally on trips to places nearby. One of those places was the entertainment quarter in Moore Park in Sydney, and we have family photos of her there and of Kate drinking a frozen margarita while wearing a large sombrero and looking like someone out of a Clint Eastwood western. One of her doctors assured us that she could still drink alcohol. As Richie has said, Kate displayed great resilience and spirit throughout her illness. She never gave up, and she battled on right up until the end. She remained optimistic about the future, notwithstanding the toll taken on her by the disease and the various treatments. She was always keen to discuss treatment possibilities with doctors and remained actively engaged with medical treatments. Her doctors would always comment on her amazing ability to keep fighting and to bounce back. Richie has referred to the conversation with O'Sheen, but in the several days before Kate passed away, she was unable to speak to us and her condition deteriorated rapidly. However, amazingly, just before she passed, she received that telephone call from O'Sheen that Richie has referred to, and notwithstanding that she had not spoken for about 3 days, she suddenly briefly resumed speaking when she heard O'Sheen's voice. She passed away the next day. Kate was able to achieve much in the 3 years since she was initially diagnosed. Most importantly, she and Richie got married. She put a great deal of effort into the planning surrounding the wedding and conducted significant research to identify an appropriate venue and to make and plan all the arrangements. I think the planning of D-Day was probably easier. The wedding was a great success. Kate and Richie went to Ireland in July 2018 to visit with Richie's family and had a great time and celebrated their marriage with Richie's family and their Irish friends. It also allowed them to catch up with O'Sheen, of whom she was very fond. It was fantastic that they were able to take that trip. Richie's family would send supportive messages and cards to Kate on an ongoing basis after her medical condition deteriorated after she returned to Australia. As Richie has said, Richie's brother Brian and 2 of his sisters, Deirdre and Tara, have flown from Ireland to be here today. One of her cousins, Aaron, has come from the UK, and another, Dylan, has come from Perth to be with us today. Another cousin, Paris, has travelled from Melbourne, and other extended family and friends have travelled from interstate to be here. Kate had a big support team. Richie and Trish and Annie and I supported her from her initial diagnosis and were with her all the way until she passed. My sister Michelle and her husband Bob and their family were great supporters of Kate throughout her health difficulties. Their son and her cousin Matt is the MC today. She wanted Matt to perform that role because she thought he had a great radio voice. Her cousin Danielle was a frequent visitor and a great supporter of Kate's. She also got significant support from her extended family members in the Lino family. Her uncle Peter and his wife Cherie travelled from the North Coast to visit with Kate a few weeks before she passed away, and she also got to spend some time with her cousin Bianca before she passed. She also got great support and derived comfort from ongoing visits and contact with a number of her close friends and various work colleagues, and many of whom are here today. In particular, Dana and Joanne and Annalise were great friends and supporter of Kate. One of her closest friends, Alice, lives and works in Africa, but returned to Australia to see Kate before she passed away. And Alice has returned to Australia today to be with us. Kate was also able to complete her master's degree after she was diagnosed, and she got a great deal of enjoyment out of telling the rest of the family that she was the youngest person in her family to have obtained a master's degree. She would occasionally suggest that she would go on to obtain a PhD. After her initial diagnosis and treatment, she continued working and very much enjoyed her role with the New South Wales Public Service Commission. A number of her colleagues and friends from the Commission are with us today, and we thank the Commission for the support that it provided to Kate. A particular memory that I will carry with me is Kate on our lounge at home when she started to become unwell in around late August 2018, and at that stage she had come home so that her mother and I could provide practical support to her when she was getting treatment, and she was allowed to work from home as well. She would be calling unsuccessful candidates for various positions or courses and give back on why they had been unsuccessful. I called it post-application grief counselling. I would hear her speaking with people, and she always projected a positive approach when engaging with people and suggesting how they might be more competitive in the future. I would be coming and going and doing my work, but Kate would remain there all day doing her work. I'm sure that the people she was providing feedback and advice to would have had no idea that they were speaking with someone who had such very serious health issues. She was often able to mask her health difficulties when she spoke to people. Kate had a very outgoing personality, and she made friends easily, and she maintained those friendships. I know many of her long-term friends are here today. She also had a very good sense of humour, and she was particularly good at doing voice impersonations of various people, some of whom are with us today. Those she impersonated included her parents. She would do a very good impersonation of her mother saying, "You are skating on thin ice, my girl," when Kate had managed to provoke her mother. She and Annie got a lot of amusement out of that particular impersonation. Kate travelled extensively when she was younger. She spent a couple of months in high school in Florence in Italy on a school exchange program when she was about 16, and that seemed to encourage her interest in travel. She lived and worked in Ireland for about 12 months at one stage when she was younger. Her connection with Ireland was an ongoing part of her life over many years, and it may come as a surprise to some of you to learn that Richie is Irish, or more correctly Irish Australian these days. Many of her friends are here today. She loved the Irish people, but that love did not extend to the Irish weather. And after 12 months in Ireland, she decided that she needed to be back in Australia and back in the sunshine. She travelled extensively in Europe over the years, including to the UK and Spain, and Italy and Greece, and also travelled closer to home to places such as Bali and other locations in the Pacific. She spent time in Cuba and Mexico, and in the United States, in Florida and Hawaii, and New York and Las Vegas and Washington. She attended a family reunion in New Zealand with her mother and grandmother when she was younger. At one stage when she was younger, she was keen to move to New Zealand on a permanent basis. She also travelled to New Caledonia with the family when she was younger. She went to Gallipoli with her mother, Annie and Katrina, in 2012. She liked to travel, but her illness made that difficult after she was diagnosed. As I said, she was able to get to Ireland with Richie in 2018 after their marriage and celebrate with his family. Kate had a very well-developed work ethic, and she always worked, but it was not until her mid-20s that she decided that she should really do something about getting a more permanent career and also pursue further studies. Rather tellingly, when she was younger, we would occasionally suggest that it might be a good idea to look for a more permanent career, other than doing bar work in pubs or other often casual employment, and that she might take a longer-term approach to careers and jobs and study. She would respond by saying that she was having a good time, and in any event she would be dead before she was 30, and it was better to have a good time and enjoy herself. Happily, she passed her 30-year birthday milestone. She initially commenced with the New South Wales Public Service at New South Wales Legal Aid and worked there for a number of years in HR, and then did placements at Juvenile Justice, or as she liked to call it, Juvie, and then at the Cancer Institute before joining the Public Service Commission. She enjoyed working in HR, notwithstanding the difficulties that are involved in dealing with people in often complex and stressful situations. And as I said, she pursued further academic studies in that area. Kate was not a member or follower of any particular religious faith. She was a kind and caring person who would often say of people who made silly or careless remarks that she was sure that they meant well. I would describe her approach and philosophy in dealing with people as one of not intentionally doing any harm to anyone and treating people with respect and being tolerant towards people. Kate loved life and she enjoyed meeting people. She also loved animals, and in particular our long-term family dog, Snuffles. She would tell us that long after Snuffles had passed away, she would still see Snuffles in her dreams. We have many wonderful memories of Kate. Particular memories that we have are of her birth and taking her to Europe with her grandmother for about 3 months when she was 9 months old. She was breastfed in the Sistine Chapel on that trip. Another memory we have was after Annie was born, and there was an occasion when Annie, who was only a few months old, was crying. We lived terrace house at that stage, and And Kate, who was 3 at that time, went up the very steep staircase and picked Annie up from her cot and came to the top of the stairs with her in her arms and sat at the top of the stairs. Her mother and I spent a few anxious moments telling Kate not to move or do anything until we got to the top of the stairs. When she was older, she would later joke about that incident and say that if she had been careless on that occasion, then inheritance issues in the family would have been a lot simpler. We remember when she started at daycare, when she started school, and when she finished school. We remember all those preschool functions, including me being dressed as Santa Claus to give out presents at Christmas time, and the later school functions and school meetings and school fundraisers. We remember when she started learning the violin and was particularly bad at it. Her music teacher suggested she might try another instrument. We still have several violins in mint condition at home. She loved art and took a great interest in paintings and decorated her apartment with various paintings and wall hangings. She also loved architecture and design. She had considered a career in architecture or design when she was younger. We remember when she started ballet and going to classes and to performances. We remember a lot of family holidays in Australia, and including driving to Queensland on a number of occasions and driving to South Australia. We remember when she and Annie developed an interest in swimming, and that it involved early morning training before school and Friday night competitions. Both were particularly good at swimming. However, happily for her working parents, given the early morning training regimes, both moved on from that interest. We remember when she did the school exchange in Italy, and we collected her in Florence and spent a few months driving around Europe and the UK. After that, Kate decided that she did not like taking long driving trips with her father. Notwithstanding, she travelled with us when we drove around Ireland in 2001. Her last long road trip with us was in 2017 when we drove to Victoria to make arrangements for her wedding, which, as Richie has said, was held in a country town outside Melbourne. We remember her birthday drinks one year at Bondi Junction when she celebrated a little too much and took some time to recover. Her cousin Bianca reminded us about that reason. We remember when, after she returned to Australia from spending 12 months in Ireland, that she was doing bar work in a hotel in the eastern suburbs. She would sometimes have to take her passport to work with her because of immigration raids at the hotel in order to establish that she was an Australian citizen and working legally. When she first moved out of the family home and her subsequent return, and the numerous other occasions when she moved out and then returned. We always enjoyed having Kate at home. We remember when she bought her first apartment and then her next apartment. She and Richie lived in that apartment. She passed away in that apartment with a family gathered around her. Right up until her final days, she was still buying things online for the apartment and making changes to paintings and wall hangings and furniture in the apartment. As Richie had said, she was also organising photos to give to family and friends and buying presents for family and friends. She was issuing instructions to Annie about purchases and arrangements right up until the end. As I've said, Annie took long leave from her employment and her life in Melbourne to spend time with Kate and to assist Kate in relation to various projects that Kate wanted completed. I suspect that with Kate's passing, the online shopping economy will be in deep recession. On a more sombre note, we also remember the day Kate was initially diagnosed in September 2016 and the trauma over the following months that followed that very sudden and shocking news. The tumour was so rare that it took pathologists 2 weeks after the initial surgery before they were able to tell us the type of tumour that Kate had. We remember the difficulties she faced with her surgeries and the first very difficult and long radiation treatment in late 2016. We provided very close support to Kate throughout her medical treatments, and that usually involved getting her to the appointments and taking her home after she had received the treatment. And that was particularly so in relation to the radiation treatment. On a brighter note, we remember her management of Christmas present giving, and very importantly, we remember her wedding and marriage to Richie. We have many great memories of Kate and of her life, and we will keep and treasure those memories. No doubt there will be lots of discussions about those memories in the future, and it's highly likely that Kate will be tasted with some alcohol on those occasions. I think most importantly, Kate knew that she was very much loved and supported by Richie and by her immediate and extended families in Australia and in Ireland, as well as by her many friends. I think that gave her great comfort during her struggles. As Richie has said, the planning for today's, and Catherine has mentioned, the planning for today's ceremony very much involved discussions with Kate and what she wanted in terms of this memorial commemoration celebration service. Several weeks before she passed away, we were able to bring her to this chapel, and while she was looking at it, she remarked to her sister that she did not want to blow her own trumpet too much, but she thought she would draw a bigger crowd than this chapel could accommodate. However, she was also very clear that she wanted this celebration to be at this chapel. I know this sounds like a cliche, but in my mind, Kate will always remain young. She was 38 when she passed away. When she was in her mid-20s, she would get great enjoyment out of telling us that if she went into licensed premises, she would still be asked to show identification to prove that she was legally able to be on the premises. She got a great deal of enjoyment out of people thinking she was much younger than her actual age. I think in a lot of our memories, Kate will be forever young. Kate's favourite farewell to family members always involved her saying, "Love you all." And no doubt that is what she would be saying if she could speak to us today. Thank you for attending Kate's celebration. I'm sure Kate very much appreciates you being here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. I do vaguely recall Kate's violin career, and I think she even attempted to teach me some chords, but my violin career didn't go very far either. Thanks very much, Jim, for providing those memories of Kate. Now I'd like to invite Trish, Kate's mum, to come and say a few words.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you to Kate's extended family and friends who are with us today, and also the many friends and family from around the world who are joining us on the webcast to celebrate Kate's life. I clearly remember the day, some 39 years ago, when I excitedly took a test, delighted to find that I was pregnant. After about 3 years of marriage to Jim. Jim was excited too when I told him. Around 9 months later, we had Kate, who has been and always will be a great joy to us. Looking back now, I think of what the influences were on Kate to become the delightful girl and woman she was over her 38 years of life. As a keen student of family history, I have tracked down many leads to find the origins of the forebears of Jim and myself, and I wonder if it had an influence on the fine woman Kate became. Some years ago, Kate had her DNA tested, mainly so she could look at the health aspects she had inherited. Of course, it didn't actually tell her that she was going to get the dreaded disease that she got, mainly because it's not a inherited condition. I was more interested in the family connections that I was able to confirm, and also new connections found through her DNA profile from all over the world, including a latest one, a man who lives in St. Petersburg, Russia. So, there are family connections everywhere, and including in this chapel. Kate's haplogroup was of great interest. This is a genetic link which relates to a single line of descent. In a woman's case, down the female line, or up the female line, I suppose. In Kate's case, her haplogroup comes from me, my mother's mother, her mother, etc., right back to the distant past in an unbroken chain. What I found was that Kate's haplogroup is related to the Vikings. This surprised me, as I have Norwegian and Swedish ancestors on my father's side, but I was not aware of any Scandinavian in other family members. When I examined my mother's side, I found that her ancestors had come from Caithness, Scotland, from a town called Wick. Wick was a Viking settlement around 10,000 AD for quite a period of time, and many Scots from that area are descended from Vikings, including, obviously, my mother's family. You will notice in some of the photos we'll show later that the family enjoyed a Viking Christmas several years ago, suggested by Kate, adopting her heritage. So what qualities did Kate gain from her ancestors? The first one, I think, is strength, determination, and an ability to fight. I think Kate gained this from her Viking connections. It was not physical fighting, but a mental toughness. As Richie and Jim have both said, she fought her disease to the end, always looking for new opportunities to combat it. She was remarkably strong, despite debilitating treatments. She would continue to work through her illness and completed her master's degree in business from UTS at the end of last year, finally graduating while in the hospital. We were all very proud of her for this achievement, especially as she managed to gain a distinction average, notwithstanding her illness. What other qualities did Kate have? As Richie and Jim have both said, she had a great sense of fun and humour. I see this coming from her Irish and Italian histories. Irish from Tipperary on Jim's mother's and father's side, and Northern Italian on my father's side. I know that her family, friends, and later her nurses and carers all enjoyed Kate's fun, humour, and joie de vivre. You will see more evidence of this when you see the many photos of her life. Kate's love of travel. From her earliest days, when I was pregnant with Kate, she came with Jim and I to Singapore and Hong Kong in utero, and that's where it started. As Jim has mentioned, when she was 8 months old, Jim, my mother Leslie, and I travelled to Europe and the UK for nearly 3 months. And as Jim's indicated, Kate was breastfed in the Sistine Chapel, but also many other significant places, including St Paul's Cathedral and in Salzburg Cathedral. So she never went hungry. At school, she learnt Italian and went on exchange to Italy when she was 15. Jimmy and Annie and I picked her up at the end of her stay and undertook travels around Europe. She went to New Zealand twice, my birthplace, including for a family reunion. This was a reenactment in 1991 of the 150th anniversary of the landing in Wellington of Kate's great-great-great-grandparents, following a long sea voyage from England. And later you'll see a photo of this reenactment. Since that time, she travelled the world, and the countries have been mentioned. Kate, Annie and I went to Turkey in 2012, attending the Gallipoli Dawn service on Anzac Day, honouring our forebears who had served in Gallipoli and in France during World War I. And that was of great significance to us, and we laid a wreath at Anzac Cove. Her final trip was to celebrate her wedding with Richie's family and friends in Ireland last year. Most of Kate's ancestors also travelled, in some cases for pleasure and in other cases for adventure, or in many cases for a better life. Jim's family members departed from Ireland to live in Australia in hundreds, one grandmother coming after her mother had died in childbirth. Some of Jim's father's and mother's forebears also came from the UK to Australia to live and work. In my family, my mother's ancestors came from the UK on her father's side, and her mother came from Scotland. My father's father came from Italy for adventure, work, and a better life. Dad's mother descended from Norwegian and Swedish ancestors who emigrated on a Norwegian ship called the Hovding as early settlers to New Zealand to open up the country, because Norwegians and Swedish people were believed to be good hard workers in a harsh rural environment. So, another quality, the work ethic. The work ethic displayed by Kate's forebears is also demonstrated by Kate. She worked consistently from her teenage years and also worked overseas. As Jim said, these weren't always great or well-paid jobs or leading to successful careers, but she learned from her experiences, and when she finally settled down into a career in which she was interested, she worked hard and studied to improve her skills, becoming both a respected employee and boss. Another quality, caring. Kate cared for others, especially her family. She loved her sister Annie and looked after her during their school years together. She valued and cared for her friends, work colleagues and family, as well as her nurses and carers when she was in hospital and at home. In her last days, as Jim said, she was still buying presents online for all her family and friends. Her sense of style. As Jack said, Kate didn't acquire great musical ability from her ancestors, although many of them played a wide variety of music, often quite well. However, Kate did love art and had a great sense of style, styling her apartment with great taste, and as Jim and Richie said, even in the last days, buying pictures, frames, carpets, plants and other items for her home. 2 years ago, she and Richie also planned their wedding with a great sense of taste and panache. It was a beautiful wedding. Love and partnership. Not all Kate's ancestors were lucky in love, however many were. Kate was fortunately successful in meeting the love of her life and soulmate Richie. They were together for around 7 years, but sadly, Kate did not reach their second wedding anniversary, which is due at the end of this month. In conclusion, I pay tribute to Richie, who has been loyal and steadfast in his support of Kate, and we thank him for his wonderful love and care of Kate, especially after the past 3 years since her illness was diagnosed. Sadly, Kate and Richie were unable to have a child together because of Kate's illness, but she was a loving stepmother to Richie's son O'Sheen. The importance of family. Families bind us together and give our lives meaning. We thank the family members and friends here today, particularly those who have travelled from overseas and interstate, and especially Richie's brother and 2 sisters who have travelled from Ireland to be here. Her cousin Aaron came from the UK, and her dear friend Alice came via Brussels following a visit only several weeks ago to be here. Other family members as well as friends have joined the ceremony through the webcast. Thank you to you all. I'd like to extend my thanks also to the Picaluna team for their wonderful work and care in helping to organise this celebration of Kate's life. You've all done a wonderful job and we really appreciate it. It's made it, much easier to be able to manage through this difficult time. And finally, thank you to Kate for enriching our lives so much. Thank you.
Trish. Now we'll have some time to reflect on Kate's life, set to music by Nick Cave. Very fine choice, despite her lack of confidence with the violin. She's chosen music wisely.
I don't believe in an interventionist God. But I know, darling, that you do. But if I did, I would kneel down and ask him not to intervene when it came to you. Oh, not to touch a hair on your head, leave you as you are. If he felt he had to direct you, then direct you into my arms. Into my arms, oh Lord. Into my arms, oh Lord. Into my arms, oh Lord. Into my arms. And I don't believe in the existence of angels. But looking at you, I wonder if that's true. But if I did, I would summon them together and ask them to watch over you, to each burn a candle for you, to make bright and clear your path, and to walk like Christ in grace and love, and guide you into my arms. Into my arms, oh Lord. Into my arms, oh Lord. Into my arms, oh Lord. Into my arms. But I believe in love. And I know that you do too. And I believe in some kind of path that we can walk down, me and you. So keep your candles burning and make a journey bright and pure, that you keep returning always and evermore. Into my arms, oh Lord. Into my arms, oh Lord. Into my arms, oh Lord. Into my arms.
Now I'd like to introduce Alice Crowley. Kate has been friends with Alice for over 25 years, since they were at school together. Like many other family and friends, Alice travelled a long way to be here today. And I'd like to ask Alice to come and say a few words. Thanks, Alice.
I was doing all right until that introduction, so thank you. I didn't have anything to say about Kate, so I'm just going to read some lyrics. It's actually really hard to find lyrics that are coherent and appropriate from our music collection. So this is for Kate. To my oldest and dearest friend, the stone roses, she bangs the drums. I can feel the earth begin to move. I hear my needle hit the groove and spiral through another day. I hear my song begin to say, it kiss me where the sun don't shine. The past was yours, but the future's mine. You're all out of time. I don't feel too steady on my feet. I feel hollow. I feel weak. Passion fruit and holy bread fill my guts and eat my head. Through the early morning sun, I can see her. Here she comes. She bangs the drums. Have you seen her? Have you heard the way she plays? There are no words to describe the way I feel. How could it ever come to pass? She'll be the first, she'll be the last to describe the way I feel.
Thanks, Alice. So now I'd like to ask Picaluna, Trish's brother, and Kate's uncle to come and say a few words. Kate and Annie would holiday with Peter on the lovely north coast of New South Wales when they were younger, and I'd invite Peter to share some of his memories of Kate with us today.
You made it a little bit hard for me, Alice, so that was beautiful. Choice of lyrics, and thanks for the introduction, Matt. Look, how do we make sense of what's happened to our beloved Kate? Uncle Peter loves Kate. He loves Kate. Bianca, Dylan, Paris love Kate. You all love Kate, and so love remains undimmed, perhaps even intensified by tragedy. Kate and Grandmama had a very special bond. I remember Grandmama brushing Kate's long hair even as a young teenager. Grandmama, Leslie Helen Lena, used to call Kate Little Duck. The Australian poet A.D. Hope wrote, "For every bird, there is this one last migration. Going away, she is also coming home." And I know Kate has thought of Grandmama lately. In making sense, memories are also important, and here are a few of mine. Just before I heard of Kate's hospitalisations, I dreamt of a girl falling off a slippery dip and hurting her back, damaging her spine. At the same time, her auntie Cherie dreamt of Grandmama brushing Kate's hair. A few days later, we learnt that Kate was in hospital. Maybe Kate had come to us in our dreams, a bringer together of people. And Dylan tells of how Kate invited Bianca and him to Christmas lunch when they were without family in Sydney. Kate cared. And at that same time, he organised a job for him with legal aid where she was working. And on my last visits to her in hospital and at Ritchie's and her home, Kate was always interested in what I was doing and how her cousins were going. You had the sense that Kate cared about you. Not only that, but at that time, I could sense she was trying to protect me from the awfulness of what was happening to her with humour, interest, a brave persona, despite the pain, the indignity, and what must have been a sense of frustration at a life utterly changed. Shag rock, you say? Shag rock. In 1996, Kate and Annie had come to visit us on the North Coast. Kate, Bianca, Dylan and Annie decided to make a video. Shag Rock was a whodunit soap opera set in Dublin, believe it or not, and featuring a cast of very dubious characters. Who killed Mrs. Dubose? Kate Cousin and Bianca wrote most of the script, and it featured a young man, Dylan, who had realised his bisexuality and was off to Barcelona for the snip. Also a sex-mad housewife, Bianca, whose baby, Popsy, who was Paris at 18 months old, could have been the daughter of any one of the boys from the pub. Our detective, Bianca, she played a few roles and questioned them all, including Kate. Kate was Miss Honeypot, scandalised by Mrs. Dubow's alcoholism and loose ways. Finally, a murder confession was forthcoming. Not from Kate, though. It was Father O'Malley. Annie. And the moral of this, don't screw with Father O'Malley. I know that Richie, the family, and some of the carers watched it a few weeks ago and wept tears of laughter at that ridiculous video. So how do we make sense of something that seems so awful and senseless? In Leonard Cohen's song Joan of Arc, In the Fire sings, I long for love and light, but must it come so cruel and so bright? As an atheist, Kate was keenly aware of the precious, fragile beauty of the world, the universe and love. And when I look up at night, Kate is like the light from the stars that I see. Kate's alive in our hearts and in our universe of love and memory. Kate's dreams? She told me she wanted to appear as a contestant on The Block. With Richie. He didn't want to butt her. The perfect block couple, I think. And she told me she'd had a recent dream in which she was telling to put the shelf a bit higher. In another wish, Kate reminded me she loved swimming and would be up soon to swim in a lap pool. Well, at 4:44 p.m. on Thursday, November 21, I learned Kate's peaceful death. I went and swam in that pool, the Leslie Helen Lino Memorial Baths. The pool was a little bit deeper than it ever was. It always will be. I'm swimming with you, Kate. And Grandma is brushing your hair.
Thanks, Peter. Never wiser words were spoken than not to screw with Father O'Malley. Now we'll hear a version of Shenandoah, sung by Norwegian soprano Cecile, chosen by Jim, but verified by various family members along the way. This will be a background piece for a period of reflection for Kate.
Shenandoah, I love your daughter.
So now I'd like to invite Dana Layden up to say a few words about Kate. Dana and Kate had been friends and colleagues for over 20 years, and Kate was friends with Dana's wider family in Ireland. Thanks very much. Dana.
Thanks much. So, like Matt said, I met Kate over almost 20 years ago now, within 2 weeks of arriving in Australia. We worked together in the good old cotton bull and became inseparable, even to the point of actually being separated. We weren't allowed to work together at the same time because we talked too much. I went home to finish my studies and honestly couldn't wait to come back. Kate was the reason I came back to Australia. She was so funny, brightened the room, and that smile and laughter was absolutely infectious, and she was always there for me. So thinking of today, I wasn't sure what story to tell, especially since Kate had censored most of them. I'm sure Alice or I will tell some later. But I'll tell you just something simple of her sense of humour. So Kate and I were on holidays up the coast quite a few years ago now, and we decided to go jet skiing. So Kate was on the back of the jet ski, and we were the only girls, and the instructor told us, all right, you guys go last because of all the men. So this didn't bode well with myself and Kate at the start. So I started flying along the waves, speeding, trying to catch up with all the guys. And going over the waves, it took me a while, but I looked behind me and Kate was way back in the water. She had fallen off. And I'm sure the poor girl was sitting there for ages going, when is she coming back to me? And the day before, there was actually a poor lady was bitten by a bull shark, so I'm sure she wasn't very happy in the water. So needless to say, I've been reminded of this quite often since. So after Kate's first surgery, I couldn't wait to see her. I walked into the hospital and, obviously being nervous, and it was quite a serious time. I said hello to her, we said her, how are you? And Kate looked up at me, very with a little smirk, the little cheeky smile she had, and said that the doctor actually asked her, was she ever in a jet skiing incident? That could have contributed. So even in her most difficult times, yeah, she had a great sense of humour. So if you're lucky enough in life, whether it be a partner or a friend, you'll get a few great loves. And Kate was one of my great loves. And I'm very grateful to have been in her life. Jolly, from me and all the Laydens, we love you very much, and you're missed every single day. Goodbye and sleep well, my beautiful friend. Thank you.
Thanks, Dana. I was hoping you might talk for a little bit longer to give me a chance to recover. So now I'd like to invite Annie. Kate's sister, to come and say a few final words. I know if I ever needed a full and frank character assessment, I know I'd be able to rely on my sister to give me one. And I'm sure that Annie will be able to do the same for Kate today. Thanks, Annie.
Thanks, Matt. Don't worry, Kate, I'll be kind. Kate had high standards when it came to others talking about her, as I'm sure many of you know, so I very much hope I do her justice in what I'm about to say. As most of you probably know, Kate is my big sister. She was just over 3 years older than me. Since diagnosis, her illness claimed her in just about the same amount of time. Though her illness dominated the last few years of her life, we all know Kate was so much more than her illness. She truly was an absolute shining light, and that light is what brought you all here today, to pay tribute and show your ultimate respect to this determined, strong, generous, driven, courageous and loving woman. My connection with Kate is forged in blood, family, upbringing, friendship, and of course, a bit of gin and tonic. which we both grew to like thanks to our maternal grandmother. Katie, I will be sure to toast you with the gin and tonic later today. I'm Kate's only sibling and she mine. Whether she liked it or not, we shared a bond like no other, and that is something I will cherish forever. Don't get me wrong, we were as different as two sisters could be, and our fights could be pretty monumental. But I also loved her at such an elemental level and continue to love her in a way that no one else could. She was my big sister, and I relied on her at every turn for guidance, advice and acceptance. I'll be honest, I didn't always love her big sister bossiness, but nevertheless, I tended to concede as I generally agreed that she knew better than me in most situations, and she generally reminded me of that too. We had a saying when we were in sync, which happened more frequently than she would probably like to admit. We were twinning, or as I like to say, #twinning. You've already heard the story where she picked me up as a baby and brought me to the top of the stairs in our Surrey Hills house with the sole intention of comforting me in my hour of need. At least that's her version of the story. Dad sort of told another version, possible version. But that summed Kate up. She was always thinking of other people, even right up until her premature death. In her final hours, I tried to make sure she knew how loved she was by everyone. It was as peaceful as it could be, and she was ready, though I can assure you, she did not want to go. She had fought so hard for so long, along with Richie, my parents and myself, and all of her extended family and friends. However, I know she was competitive at heart and didn't like to lose, but in leaving us when she did, I believe she somewhat left on her own terms. The cancer had taken enough away from her, and she didn't want to allow it to take any more. I think it is telling that the most common descriptions told to me of Kate, and what is the most difficult time of my and my family's life, is that Kate was an absolute one of a kind. Her light shone so bright and she was always sparkling. I couldn't think of more accurate descriptions of my precious baby Baubles. I look around this chapel today and see the love for Kate and the devastation at her loss pulsing through everyone, further evidenced by the many messages I receive from people I've never even met. The turnout is testament to the amazing person she was. I truly know you all deeply cared for her. She inspired that in people, which makes her loss at such a young age all the more unfathomable. Individuals like Kate are extremely rare. Kate had a massive impact on people, more impact in her short 38 years than most people could hope to have in a lifetime. She had a unique ability to make friends with almost anyone. Our lives were all the more enriched for knowing, loving and being loved in return by Kate. Despite losing her much too soon, she will remain forever young, which is a lovely way for us all to remember her. And I will always think of her with a big Cheshire cat grin on her face. Kate was the type who naturally excelled at most things she tried her hand at, which included sport, art and music, despite everyone else's views. I thought she was good at music, but I was much younger. I looked up to her, so I thought she was good at music. I'm so glad she found and pursued her passion in HR, and she was clearly very good at it. She found her way in love and work, and I'm extremely thankful for that, but also so sad that it is now at an end. There are a few specific people that I'd like to mention. I wish to pay specific tribute to her beloved husband, Richie. Richie, you were and continue to be the most devoted husband I think I've ever seen. I know your love for Kate transcended all boundaries. You truly were there for her in the good times and the bad, just as the vows say. Be safe in the knowledge that her love for you was reciprocated. You both should be living happily ever after in health and happiness, and that is what we all wished for. Instead, she was taken from you, and for that I'm very sorry. I deeply admire your devotion, and thank you for the pure love you showed her in the darkest time of all of our lives. She was an inspiration to us all in the heart she showed and the fight she put up. Kate was a superwoman, and Richie, you were very much her equal match, and we thank you for such good care of our much adored Jolliffe-Foley. Mum and Dad, I'm so sorry for the loss of your firstborn. She was born a cherubic angel and passed away in very much the same way. You always showed her love and affection and encouraged her interests and passions. Her strong-willed nature, which we knew very well, was a byproduct of both of your parenting, and I know she loved you both deeply. Kate and I were so lucky to have the upbringing that you both provided us, and we enjoyed so many good times as a family. As we like to say, we chased every rabbit down every hole to try to keep her here with us. I would also like to specifically mention some of her closest friends, even though she had loads and loads of friends. Alice, Dana, Joanne and Annalisa, who unfortunately couldn't be here with us today at the chapel. She loved you all very much. Alice, thank you so much for coming back recently to visit Kate and for returning again for this extremely sad occasion. I would also like to thank our extended family on both sides, the Greenwoods, Linos and Foleys, and for all their love and support. Richie's two sisters, Deirdre and Tara, and brother Brian flew from Ireland, and Aaron, my cousin, flew from England, as well as everyone who came from interstate. Thanks also to her work, the PSC, for all the support you afforded to Kate and the interest you took in her health. I know she was very grateful. Finally, thank you to her wide network of friends here and across the globe. I would also like to thank the hospital and nursing staff who took such good care of her in her final years, some of whom formed some close bonds with her in the short time they knew her. Kat, I want to thank you for being my rock. It has been especially hard for me living in a different state during Kate's illness and being so far away from everyone. There were times I felt like I was commuting between Melbourne and Sydney, but your support and love has made this difficult time easier. Lastly to Katie, my love, my big sister and best friend. I think of you every day, I miss you like crazy and I love you. The hardest thing I've ever had to do is say farewell to you. We were supposed to grow old together as sisters alongside Richie and Kat, amongst family and friends. We were supposed to fight over who would look after Mum and Dad in their old age. Now I have to do it all. We were supposed to celebrate big milestones, including your 40th birthday in just under 2 years. The list goes on. I'm heartbroken to go on without you. You deserve so much more than this. And I'm so very proud of the fight you put up. I'll miss our days doing crosswords and our family expression of "good one, Joel" every time one of us came up with a hard word. I will miss you calling me every variation of Fanny under the sun. Fantastic, Fan Belt, Fanny Adams, just to name a few of her favourites. I was even known as Fantastic to her recent home nursing staff, which was a constant source of amusement to us all. I will miss our Friday night pizza and press game nights. I will miss our collective love of sloths, our spirit animal. Buy me sloth presents whenever I came across them. I will miss you telling me in a disapproving way, "Fanny, negative," whenever you thought I was being hard on myself. I will miss our annual themed family Christmases, where we always fooled around and you excelled at playing Santa. I will miss you forcing people we met to guess which one of us was the elder sister. I will even miss that puzzled face you used to give us when you disagreed with something we said. I'm so thankful for the countless good times we shared. I will forever treasure those memories. I hope I can continue on in some small way your legacy and about to keep my promise of taking you to every new place I visit. I have no doubt you will continue to guide me from wherever you are. I hope you do, because I will always need it. You are so many things to so many different people: sister, wife, daughter, stepmother, sister-in-law, niece, granddaughter, cousin, friend. You touched all of our lives in a profound way. Whilst you are physically gone, you will never be truly gone, and I'm so glad as we all continue to need you and the memory of you. Our collective loss is immeasurable, and our collective grief will endure forever. I can say that if love was enough to save Kate, she would be here with us now. I wish that were the case, and I thank you all for the love and friendship you showed to her. Katie, love you loads and love you all. Until we meet again, my beautiful sister.
Thanks very much, Annie. Fanny. It was fantastic. In keeping with the high standards Kate would have expected from today's service, we're running behind time. So that almost brings us to the end of the service today. There are just some housekeeping issues to attend to. The aisles actually look fairly clear, but can we just make sure the aisles are clear so the pallbearers can take Kate from the chapel. And for those of you who will be attending the wake, it starts in approximately 20 minutes at Randwick Golf Club. For those of you who don't know the eastern suburbs, and I'm sure there's a few of us in the room who don't, it's best to travel back out along Anzac Parade, head towards the city, and then turn right at the lights at Malabar, and then head towards the ocean on House Street. With that, I'd like to thank everyone for attending, and I'll ask Catherine to make some closing comments.
Thank you so much, Matt. That was beautiful comments and invitations for people to come up. When you are born with the voice for radio, you get to come on big gigs like this. This one probably you wouldn't put your hand up for so much. Not for all the tea. Okay, and just in those closing notes, I know Kate wanted this afternoon to be a very big party. So you're probably all ready for a good strong cup of tea, or even better, a good strong gin and tonic right now. And just recapping, also the family will follow the hearse to the crematorium, but we'll see you at the golf club very, very shortly. Just on that also, if anybody has arrived by taxi or public transport and then lift to the golf club, please just come and see one of the Picaluna staff or family as well, and we'll make sure you get to the golf club, get a lift there too. Okay, everybody, can I invite you all to stand now as we say our farewell. I invite you all just to maybe close your eyes for the closing comments. And I'm just going to talk on your behalf as well, if that's okay. Kate, how lucky we are to have known you. The world was a better place because of you. And we are all better people for knowing you. Yes, you'll be dearly missed, but we will strive to remember the good times and are so grateful you left us such rich, wonderful memories. Nothing loved is ever lost. So as we move on without you, we give thanks. Thank you for the inspiration, the knowledge, the care, the connection and love you shared with all those whose lives you touched. You will forever remain in our hearts. Your precious life was full to brimming with love, laughter, friendships and family. And we thank you for the values that emanated from your generous, kind heart. We are truly so grateful for the time that we have been privileged to share with you. You will be held so lovingly and tenderly in our hearts forever. Tenderly, with reverence and with love, we farewell the physical body of Kate Elizabeth Jolliffe-Foley. We give thanks for her life, and may we focus on the gratitude for the time that we've been so privileged to share with her. We will cherish her kindness, the memories of her words, the sound of her laughter, and that beautiful smile. We cherish her friendship, and most of all, we cherish her